Welcome into Road to the Draft, presented by Raymond James. Casey Phillips here with senior writer and editor Scott Smith. And like we do every week this time of year, we are here to talk about all the potential options for the Buccaneers in the draft, how free agency is affecting it, how things like the combine affected it, everything that goes on across the league. This is where we break down how it might affect the Buccaneers draft. So it has been a flurry of free agency the last couple weeks, a lot of moves, a lot of things going on that will affect what this team could, would, should do in the draft. We've talked a lot, particularly about the offensive side of things for the draft because of a lot of different signings along the wide receiver group or the O-line or some trades made there, a lot of things that have gone on that side. Tom Brady returning. But now I figured we need to switch over to the defensive side a little bit. One of the reports that, as of filming this, is not official yet, but we think will maybe be addressed in a press conference a little later after we are shooting this, is Will Golston potentially coming back with the team. So how do you feel like that affects the draft, what they might want or need, and then where some of the uncertainties in terms of other free agents are trying to shore up the defensive line and maybe the outside edge rushers?
So I think you're saying that we need to start doing some defensive driving on this road to the draft?
Yes,
After being so offensive and aggressive in the last
Yes,
year?
nailed it.
Yes. If you've watched any of these in the past or read any of my mock drafts on Buccaneers.com, I have on several occasions had the Bucs taking offensive guards because there was a lot of uncertainty about the interior offensive line, but that's pretty much been resolved at this point. And wide receivers pretty much been resolved. So what you're probably looking at, I would think, late in the first round would be a player who could step into a rotation somewhere on the defensive front, whether that be in the defensive line or at outside linebacker. Now, Will Golston, as you said, probably by the time you're watching this, has officially re-signed with the Buccaneers for a 10th season. And that's really good news. But there's still room for more in that rotation because Ndamukong Suh and Steve McClendon remain unsigned free agents. You do have Vita Vea and you do have Raheem Nunez-Roches. But if you could add another disruptive force in the middle, I'm sure that they would find a way to get that player into the game a lot in that rotation. And one of the guys that could be a disruptive force in the middle is Georgia's Devontae Wyatt. Devontae Wyatt was one of about 6 different Georgia defenders who actually absolutely killed the combine. He has good pass rushing potential. He's one of the 2 defensive tackles from Georgia that are probably going to go in the first round. Jordan Davis probably be gone long before that. But this Devontae Wyatt could, I think, step right in and help you. And that's a way that the Buccaneers could get value late in the round from that position. Now, there's a chance that Devontae Wyatt doesn't make it to 27 because his stock seems to be on the rise. If that's the case, the Buccaneers could still focus on that position and maybe take the next guy on the board, which could be, I don't get a chance to look at our board, but a guy that's been rising and is starting to show up in first round mock drafts lately is Houston's Logan Hall, another defensive lineman who did well at the combine and who could come in there and be part of that rotation right away. So there's going to be a couple options along the defensive line if the Buccaneers want to go that route.
Okay, and then how about on the edge rushing front? We know that they took Joe Tryon-Shoyinka last year, and we still are not entirely sure about JPP's situation free agency wise. And so where do you see that group? And we did see that they enjoyed doing a rotation where another position that it is easy to say there's no such thing as too much depth there. So do you see that as a position that they could even want in the first round or make a big priority of?
Sure, absolutely. JPP is not re-signed as of yet. And if you kind of try to paint the picture, assuming he's not going to be in it, then you do have, obviously, still have Shaq Barrett, who's still very productive. And then on the other side, you got the pick from the first round last year, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, who you think is going to be, a big part of the edge rush. But it's still a lot to be answered there. We still probably want to see more production from him. Anthony Nelson kind of stepped up his production last year and became a bigger part of that rotation, but he's going into the last year of his rookie contract. So when you look at this, not just from this year's perspective, but moving forward, there's a good reason that the Buccaneers might want to get another young asset at that position. And they could work right into the rotation just like they could on defensive line. The problem, of course, is that while it is a deep class of interesting edge rushing candidates, if you look at the mock drafts, they're going and they keep going up. And so it's possible that 5 or 6 guys on the list that we've talked about before aren't going to be there. And then you have the issue with David Ojabo, one of those guys that has been rising. tearing his Achilles during his pro day workouts. So you don't know if a team's going to take a shot on him late in the first round or not. So if all that happens, and all these guys we've been talking about, 6 or 7 guys as edge rushers aren't there, another guy that could be there from Minnesota is Boye Mafe, and he's a guy that you're starting to see towards the end of mock drafts, first round mock drafts now, because so many of these players are going higher and higher and their stock is on the rise. So you start looking at the next guy down the list, and it just could be a draft full of edge rushers in the first round. And if the Buccaneers are picking at the end of teams trying to take edge rushers, you might be looking at a guy like Boye Mafe.
All right, well, that is going to do it for us on this edition of Road to the Draft, presented by Raymond James. Again, we are here every week talking about new and different position groups, new and different scenarios for the Buccaneers to think about what they could do in that draft this year. So we'll see you next time.